Good morning and happy Sunday, everybody. Welcome to another Ramble where we will be covering a very sensitive topic in the community. It's not that sensitive. I don't know. Maybe it is. Sailing. So I feel like the community is relatively split when it comes to sailing. Majority of people are totally down with it and are really excited about it. And then there's like a big chunk of players that are like, fuck sailing. And we're going to be covering this Reddit post that just popped off the other day. It got 5.6K upvotes, and I haven't even taken a look at the comments, but I'm going to be reacting to some of the comments and seeing what the community feels ultimately about sailing. I know I touch on sailing a lot, especially on the Sebe casts, and, sailing seems to be this topic that's continuously brought up, but I feel like it is important. Plus, I kind of see these rambles and the cast where I talk about it as sort of time capsules, so people can look back several years like after the release of sailing and go back and just really pick apart how the community was feeling about it before it actually landed. So I think these are kind of cool to just make and, just get like the community's thoughts. By the way, I just cracked this open. I should have waited for the ramble, but this is Liquid Death Grave Fruit, which is, I'm pretty sure, the grapefruit version. And it's pretty good. So these are 20 calories, 0 caffeine, just sweetened with agave nectar. And I have been off of the caffeine grind because, dude, I go back and forth between caffeine where it's like I'm just cruising on caffeine, taking it every single day. And then I'll take my tolerance breaks. And I always feel better during the tolerance breaks. But what always seems to happen, it's usually content creation related where I want to have like, where something hype is going to happen, or I'm going to have like a fun Sebe cast, or I'm going to go on somebody else's podcast, and I just feel the kind of need to be caffeinated. And then I go right back into the cycle of like caffeinating daily. So I have been about 3 weeks clean of caffeine almost, and I'm honestly feeling better than ever. And I think I'm going to try to stick with the no caffeine life. I'm turning 30 this year too. I know caffeine's totally fine. A lot of you probably drink it daily. Let me know down in the comments. Are you guys like daily caffeine drinkers, or are you guys more on that like natural grind? I don't know. Anyway, so I'm going to be trying to drink more like not really this is a healthy drink, but like just non-caffeinated stuff for the most part. I'm going to see how it works. And yeah, anyway, so let's jump into this. Sorry for the long intro, but so this guy just says, I'm just going to say it. I was really nervous when I heard that, and then I clicked on it, and we were good. I breathed a sigh of relief. So he says, I don't care if you don't want sailing. The poll passed over a year ago. It's been in development ever since. Do you seriously think they're going to scrap it because some Reddit dude with no real complaints beyond vibes doesn't want it in the game? Get over yourself. It was voted in. It's being added. If you don't like the skill, interact with it the least you possibly can, like you do for half the skills in the game. So this guy's really butthurt, clearly. These fucking memes, man. So yeah, let's like, I guess we'll just scroll. So I want to see what people have to say about this, because this seems like it's kind of like baiting the sort of like elite players into like reacting like, oh, fuck you, I feel like, I'm trying to think. What do you guys think? I feel like the majority of players that don't want this are maxed players. Like, max players are the ones that are whining and complaining about this kind of stuff. Like, the people that are chronically online are most of the time the people that don't want sailing. Now, I'm pretty agnostic to sailing. I actually, this is something I've been very transparent about. I actually did vote no on sailing. And sailing was actually the skill I wanted the most by the end. I think I originally leaned sort of on taming. I had a little bit of fondness for shamanism, but I was worried. And sailing came along, and I was like, you know what? Sailing's got to be it. Like, it's cool. But I still ended up voting no, and that was because we were in this weird place in the game where, like, skills in general just weren't getting love, and forestry was a fucking shit show, in my personal opinion. And there was just a lot of issues, it seemed like. So I was like, you know what? Let's hold off on sailing. The reason I voted no is not because I didn't like the idea of sailing. It was mainly to hold off. Like, let's spend another year addressing some of the concerns that we already have with this game. Broadly speaking, skilling, And so anyway, but I am really agnostic as to whether or not sailing will be good. I am still excited for it. What the hell? Dude, Caveman only just got 2 spiked manacles in like 2 seconds. Heisenberg is caveman only, by the way. Legend. Anyway, so well, yeah, let's just see what people are saying. So this guy's saying, I think sailing is going to be cool. Old school is very much its own thing, and it's not beholden to nostalgia anymore. We need to progress as a community. That is true. However, there is still a strong argument for keeping old school somewhat old school, as in keeping the feel of it, keeping the graphics, keeping it relatively, like we can update some of the graphics. Just like I like the HD versions of it because it's not going RS3 mode where everyone has like fucking 6-inch longer arms and they're just like constantly like moving and stuff. I don't know. But yeah, like I agree for the most part with that sentiment. I started playing almost 20 years ago, and we've been talking about sailing for almost all of that time. What? Have we? To me, sailing is pure nostalgia. I wasn't even a teenager when I started thinking about it. Wow, that's crazy. Yeah, well, who knows? Maybe I guess, did they talk about that really like 20 years ago? Or almost all that time, he says. I feel like the first time I heard about sailing it was probably like around the time I first started playing old school, which is around 2015. I'd heard the idea lightly. It wasn't coming into the game, but yeah. Oh my God, he just pulled, what is he? He's like opening like 1 billion clues? Oh, that's crazy. He's making bank. I'm so jealous. I need spiked manacles and ranger boots. This is the forward-thinking type of attitude that this community doesn't like. Get out of here, you in-touch individual. The problem is nobody knows what sailing is truly going to bring. So to just be like very, like I'm also lightly against these kind of sentiments where it's like, hey, anybody that's against this, go fuck yourself. Like, it's going to be great. Like, they're not even saying it's going to be great, but they're just assuming sailing is going to be wonderful, and the only people that wouldn't like it are just like anti-fun or something like that. Like, we genuinely don't know what sailing is going to bring. I do fully lean more toward this argument that this guy has kind of presented, which is, yeah, the forward thinking is good, but we still have to be like rational. We don't know what sailing is truly going to bring. Nobody's really play tested it besides like a small group of players that are probably like in the, thickets with the dev team trying to figure out what the hell they're doing. Which, by the way, they have made great progress. I'm not going to deny that. What is this? Dude, okay, be honest, guys. Do you like it that Reddit, I'll be honest, Reddit, when they started coming out with the emotes and stuff, I feel like they're a bit like large, but I'm still okay with it, I guess. I don't know. When they first dropped that update, I was a bit concerned. I was like, oh no, everyone's going to be typing their GIFs and their emotes, but it's not bad. I love how people are still talking about nostalgia. Remember 2013, 2014, and 10K player accounts when the game was just about nostalgia? I mean, yeah, no, he's got a point. The other problem with that was just how, like, unplayable, like, RuneScape was in so many ways. I was talking about that on last night's cast, just remembering the days where there weren't even, like, the mini orbs by your mini map. It's just, like, you couldn't click your middle mouse button to move the camera. Like, I wasn't even playing back then, but I've heard about it. That sounds painful, genuinely. Let's see. Reddit is a vocal minority and shouldn't be used as an indicator of how the entire player base feels. What? What are you talking about? Vocal minority? Dude, every fucking player is on the 2007 Scape Reddit. What are we talking about here? How did this get upvoted? I'm so confused. Is he trying to... Because I feel like vast majority of players are actually on the 2007 Scape Reddit. Maybe the people that talk on Reddit is way lower, potentially. But I agree that it shouldn't be an indicator of how the entire player base feels. Nothing will indicate that. But still. Yeah, it does have a toxic stranglehold over the game and devs, for an example. I don't feel like it's necessarily a toxic stranglehold. I genuinely don't feel that way. I feel like there are some bad takes, obviously, but there's bad takes on every platform. It's not just Reddit. I feel like I've been defending Reddit lately. Just because I feel like they have gotten a lot of shit over the years. Don't get me wrong, that Reddit it's still memed. I'm totally cool memeing on them, but like, you gotta have some sort of I don't know. Like, sometimes it's overdone. Like, there's people shitting on Reddit too much. We're all on it. Let's be honest. We're all on Reddit. So, like, what are we just shitting on yourself? Anyway. The majority of Redditors like sailing. Are you saying we shouldn't listen to them and sailing should be scrapped? What did he say? No, they should listen to the polls, which are advertising game to active players who care about the future updates. That's a good point. That is a good point. There's a lot of players on the 2007 Skate Reddit that don't even play necessarily, and they just kind of shoot the shit. So that's a reasonable point. However, a lot of active players do not engage in polling. Like they just don't. We always see that. The poll numbers are like, I'm pretty sure have been like almost steadily decreasing long term, or maybe like ratio wise to players. I remember hearing that. Obviously with big polls, that's a different story. Like everybody jumps on the sailing poll, everyone jumps on other polls. But he's kind of got a point. The active players should be the ones kind of like directing the game. Bro got so mad at the other post, he had to make his own. Oh yeah, there was another post on this whole thing, which was talking about like, it was just like anti-sailing. Like he wanted 2277 to always be. He's got a point. 2277 does hit, it does hit different. What the fuck is that last bit? I stroked out reading it. Let's see. As long as oak mahogany planks go to the moon, I'll be happy with the update. What? Nothing screams not caring about other people's opinions more than making a separate Reddit post solely about it, yeah. As long as it's not as convoluted of a skill as whatever we've got going on in RS3, I won't mind. The cool thing about OSRs is the skills are pretty simple and streamlined. Things like dungeoneering, archaeology, while neat, they don't feel old school. That is actually a point I wanted to touch on. So there seems to be, not every update, of course, but there seems to be an ever-increasing sort of convolution with the game in some regard. Like, forestry was going to be very convoluted. It still is somewhat convoluted. If you've done a lot of forestry and you understand the ins and outs, yeah, you're probably like, what? No, it's not. It's so simple. But do you remember when forestry first dropped? It was like, what's going on? What, we need a backpack? What are all these anima bark? What is this garbage? Like, back in the day, it's just you chop a fucking tree and you get a log. Like, that's the totality of it. Just so much more simple. And then they were going to drop Forestry Part 2, which they still did, but they scrapped so much of it. There was going to be so much extra bulk added. And I think the devs become very jaded because they're working on an update for months, potentially years. And in their heads, they're like, oh, this makes so much sense. It's so simple. But they've been fucking dealing with it for 2 years. And then they drop it, and the player base is like, whoa, like, what the hell are you guys doing? Like, what is this? It's like, it makes perfect sense. Come on, it makes perfect sense. Like, no, it doesn't. It doesn't. And a lot of people love Hunter Rumors. By the way, Hunter Rumors is another one of those things which feels, it's not as bad as what Forestry was going to be in its totality. But Hunter Rumors is another thing where I genuinely feel like things could have been a lot more simple. Like, there way too many items are kind of thrown in. Way too much stuff is kind of given. And it's just kind of like overload initially. Again, you kind of get used to it over time, and that's just kind of what happens. But truly, old school should be very simple. Try to be in the shoes of a brand new player with this game. When a lot of us more like veteran players started old school or started RuneScape in general, things were so goddamn simple. Like, we had it good. We had it good where everything was just so intuitive. Nowadays, try to imagine being a brand new player and trying to understand forestry. Like, woodcutting is supposed to be the most simple thing. Like, what the hell is going on with forestry here? And then try to imagine, and again, forestry is not as egregious as it would have been had we not, like, outraged at the team. Like, what is going on? Stop adding all this random garbage. There's just a lot of things in this game now that feel overly convoluted, overly complicated, and I am genuinely a little bit worried about sailing being overly complicated. I got pretty happy about the December's update of their navigational stance. I think toward the beginning, they were going way overkill on just the default traveling on the sea with the boat. It was like your dude had to get attached to the steering wheel, then he had to get unattached to it, and then he had to like trim the sails, and then he had to like do some other random stuff, and then you got to click back on this thing just to move the boat. It's like, bro, this is way too much. Way too much. We just got to move the boat. Like, that's it. And they did a really solid update where now it's like, yeah, we want you to stay somewhat engaged, but the whole thing is just, you just click the sail. Your guy doesn't even have to move to the sail. You just literally click the glowing sail and just trim it. Like, boom, you're done. Your guy didn't even have to move. You're still moving the boat. And it's also not even an essential part of it. You don't even have to. It'll just give you a speed boost if you do it. Like, that is good. Like, keep things really simple. Just keep it simple. It's so important to keep things simple, in my opinion. So, yeah, I like this point. I know I'll get hate for this, but I liked Dungeoneering. Maybe not so much as a skill. Yeah, I never played Dungeoneering, so I'm really not... I'm not going to go down here just because I'm not going to be the person to really talk about Dungeoneering. Never played it. In all honesty, I thought people were bullshitting about sailing. I did not know this is a real thing. Yeah, see, these are the people voting. Or these are the people didn't even know sailing's a thing, and they're in the subreddit. I just don't know why the community voted sailings. The other ones were way cooler. I don't know about that. I think no matter what skill would have been proposed, this is my personal take. Let's just say shamanism had been voted in as the top contender. What we would see with, this is my belief. I have no idea if this would have actually happened, but this is how I would have imagined it going down. We got to keep in mind, when shamanism was first being presented, we hadn't even gotten to the point as a community where we saw the deep flaws with ruinous powers, which was the new prayer book coming out into the game. Everybody was like, new prayer book, new prayer book, new prayer book. This is going to be so amazing. And then we actually started getting into the nitty gritty of it. And everyone was like, whoa, okay, what the hell is going on? Like, I like the power, but like, everything's fucking weird. There's these nasty trade-offs where it's like you can't even get full protection. And then the team just kept adding more and more and more of the standard prayers to the Ruinous Powers prayer book, because using the default Ruinous Powers didn't give you like redemption and didn't give you like these key things to have. And then it ended up just looking like this messy, just slush or whatever of just, it's kind of like a mixture of the standard prayer book and just some other annoyances. I don't know. The whole thing was a mess. And honestly, I would imagine seeing the exact same thing with shamanism, where the idea of shamanism is like, ooh, this is going to be so exciting. New imbues, new auras, new random fucking imbues on all my armor. And then you actually start getting into the balancing of it. And you're like, okay, this is a fucking mess. Like, what is happening? We got 3 auras on the Torva plate, and you got to have your mystic imbue, and you got to have your shamanistic totem attached to the, and it's just going to be so much over convoluted bullshit, and we're all going to be like, okay, this is the biggest mistake ever. Go back to the drawing board, go back to sailing seemed much more simple, go back to taming. But then if we had taming, the same thing kind of would have happened. It was just like taming, I feel like, well, first of all, this is a bad example to even bring up, because most people were already against taming in the first place, because people saw it as summoning, so I'm not even going to go there. But the same thing probably would have happened. So I think whatever starts getting developed, the more we start seeing the reality of it, which is this is a mess to develop. And no matter what the new skill is, people are going to be annoyed by it. People are going to think this is too confusing. People are just like, no, go back to something else that's more simple in their mind. But every skill, any skill that would come out is eventually just going to be like, whoa, this is too much. Take it back. So my personal take, I think sailing's totally fine, but they have to keep it simple. We have to keep this fun and simple. Yeah. Foraging would have been a really boring skill. I'm not going to lie. Did you guys hear my proposal for the speech skill? So it's like basically like a ring of Charos, however you pronounce that ring. Like a ring of Charos skill, where it's like the whole skill is it's like, you know, it's like speech, like in Skyrim, like where you can like navigate through conversations and get better deals and stuff. Like the whole speech skill, it would have been a boring skill to train most likely, but basically the development would have been like 90% just redoing dialogues. Like, did you guys ever read those choose your own adventure books in elementary school or middle school? It would be like that, where like basically every NPC in the game now has like so many different dialogue options, and quests can get much easier. So for example, if you had like level 95 speech, for example, you could actually just straight up go to one small favor, and it actually is a one small favor. Like you end up genuinely like convincing dudes to just like give you what you want. And I don't know, I just think like a speech skill could actually be kind of interesting. Lower prices at stores, better deals on things, no costs on like charter ship travel and stuff. Like, I don't know, there's like There's an element of that actually sounds really cool for some reason. And I think it would also kind of add so much more life to the game. Imagine you go to a new town and everybody just has like just so many different dialogue options. And you can just like get NPCs to like follow you and stuff and like help you with certain tasks. And just, I don't know, it just sounds interesting to me. Who knows? Maybe it wouldn't work in old school, but I actually did kind of think that would be a cool skill to come into the game. Again, I feel like almost any skill is going to have so many problems. Sailing seems like a very simple skill. Then you go into the thick of it, and it's like, no, this is hard. Shamanism was the best option. I don't agree with it, but let's see what this guy says. Honestly, wish sailing didn't have a meme history behind it, so I could be certain it got it entirely on merit. I think on equal footing. Shamanism was the better pitch and far more suited for the game's capabilities, current style. Being able to take the best parts of RS3's newer skills and learn from the mistakes is really useful. Also would have loved a spirit world version of the current, or of the parts of current map with new NPCs, more dangerous overworld exploration, etc. So much synergy and potential for expanding older content lore and skilling like hunter herb lore, etc. Hopefully the OSR's team can deliver despite being given the more complex skill sailing to implement. It was the high risk, high return option in my opinion, and could seriously shift the focus of the game if it's done well, or it'll end up being Dungeoneering V2. Yeah. Randalicious and I, we had a Sebe cast just like last week, and he was saying the whole reason Shamanism really failed was honestly its name. Like, if it wasn't for the weird-ass name of shamanism, who had ever even heard the word shamanism before shamanism was presented? We probably knew it was a word, but did you ever actually hear that word ever used in any situation ever? No, this is like the most bizarre, jarring name for a skill. Like, what? Why couldn't it have been called, I was telling this to Randalicious, I probably mentioned it like years back too when we were first kind of talking about this. Like, it should have been called Spirit or Voodoo, or something simple, something catchy, not a fucking mouthful. Shamanism. It's just like, whoa, what the hell? This is so weird. Honestly, if it had been called Voodoo, I feel like that would have been enough to be like, oh, okay, this sounds exciting. It's short, it's sweet. The name is capturing our attention. This is awesome. Honestly, Randalicious and I both agree. Like, if they had done better marketing on the name, it probably would have passed. To this day, shamanism is such a nasty skill name. Ugh, so bad. Wow, like, people butthurt about sailing. People butthurt about being butthurt about sailing. It's almost as if people can hold opinions. Yeah. The issue with sailing is it passes a meme, and it should have been pulled again after the third place option was eliminated. Three-way pull to decide something as important as a new skill is great for the first run through, but since it was a close race, it needed to be a 1v1 if done properly. Yeah. I don't think shamanism would be in any better place, personally. It probably would have been simpler to design because you're not having to build fucking boats on the water. But, yeah, I don't know. Just my personal take. I'm going to love sailing. Would have loved warding too. Also miss summoning. Damn, this guy just loves stuff. I only miss summoning when I needed to carry 28 items. Pack Yak would be top tier. I'll be honest, guys. I think I never played with summoning. I quit in 2007. Didn't start playing RuneScape again until 2015, old school. But so I missed all that whole era. But the idea of summoning, or the idea of taming, I'm not going to lie, that actually sounds really exciting. As long as it's balanced well. Just don't have overkill stuff, you know? But I'm actually a huge fan of that concept. That was my original... I originally wanted taming. It was cool. It was a cool idea. But their pitch was just super bad. And it didn't end up working, so... This is the most spoiled and nitpicky fan base of any game I've ever seen. It's kind of mind-blowing. I mean, we are just very... I mean, it's... Of any fan base, you got to remember, like, most of us have been playing this game for 20 years. I have actually been playing this game for 20 years. That's ridiculous. 21 years, actually. Almost 21 years. It'll be 21 years in, like, April, I think. Around April, I'll have been playing this game for 21 years. Well, started 21 years ago. Took an 8-year break, but still, like, that's crazy. Sailing looks like so much fun. Every progress update is so much better than the last. sad to see people so pessimistic over something that the devs are clearly putting the pressure into. Yeah, it's just this is what you get when you have a super, 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 super passionate community that's super, super nostalgia driven and super, super divided on so many different things. And yeah, this game is not just like a shooter. This game is not just like a basic game. It's like there's got so many different categories. It's an MMO. It's so massive. Some people love just killing stuff. People love skilling. People love the role play aspect. People love PvP. It's just like you cannot get everybody on board. It's impossible. The poll was BS. They said they would repoll if 2 options were close in votes, and they never did. I think they had more work done in sailing and didn't want to scrap it for the other skill. I don't know. I think the team was definitely more like... The team probably did lean on sailing. I'll agree to that. I think if it had been the other way, for example, like let's just imagine shamanism had been slightly above sailing. I feel like in that situation, they actually would have done the repoll to make it, okay, let's just put shamanism and sailing back to back and see what wins. I'll agree to that. I would actually concede that would probably have been the case. I do think that the team did have a slight bias towards sailing. I did too, personally. So, and other people have the same bias going the other way. Like if people wanted sailing, they're totally fine with shamanism not having gone back into the poll. It's only the people that wanted shamanism deep down that care about it having been repolled. So we all have our biases. Anyway, so a lot of talk on this. This is obviously just has like hundreds of comments. So if you guys, 1,000 comments actually. So there's a lot going on here. I'll have this Reddit post link down in the description. A lot of you probably already saw it. It was 2 days ago. But let me know what you guys think down in the description. I'd love to hear your guys' feedback on this. Am I going crazy with some of my takes? What are you guys' thoughts? Do you think shamanism would have been the better skill? Are you guys excited about sailing? Are you guys somewhat hesitant toward it? Let me get your guys' thoughts. Drop a like on the video if you enjoyed it. Be sure to subscribe. More Sebe casts underway. And huge shout out to all the YouTube members and the patrons. Thank you guys so much for supporting me as a creator and a podcaster. I've been really trying to put out those podcasts lately. And there's 5 full exclusive episodes if you guys do want to support. They're banger episodes, by the way. You should go check them out. But that's it for me, guys. Take it easy and enjoy the rest of your Sunday. Peace.